My calculus teacher failed me hard. Then I overheard her phone call and it all made sense. Everyone at Roosevelt High warned me a lot about Ms. Peterson, the calculus teacher. People said she failed half the class every year and liked watching kids panic. I needed calculus for my MIT plan, and she was the only slot that worked, so I signed up anyway. Day 1, she walked in, silent, wrote 3 problems on the board, dropped a pop quiz on our desks and said, "No questions, start." My hand went up on problem 1, and she still didn't look at me once. By the time the bell rang, my confidence was totally gone. A week later, she gave our first big test, and I studied the way I always did, a little, then I told myself I'd figure it out. When she slapped my paper down, the score at the top said 47%, and red ink covered every page. I was already planning to transfer out when I saw the last line. "See me after school today." I spent all day waiting for punishment. At 3:15, I went back to room 237, and the door was cracked. I heard her on the phone, but her voice sounded nothing like class. "Hi, sweetie. Yeah, I miss you too. Did you take your medicine?" I knocked, and she hung up fast like she'd been caught. Her face snapped cold again. "Sit down, Marcus." I sat, clutching my test, trying not to look scared. Then I noticed her desk. Behind her computer monitor were dozens of photos she'd hidden. A little boy with a huge smile, sometimes in a wheelchair, sometimes in a hospital bed, even one with a tiny graduation cap. She followed my eyes and her voice dropped. "That's my son, Danny. He has muscular dystrophy. It's terminal." My stomach twisted and I didn't know what to say. She pulled my test toward her and tapped the red marks. "You failed because you were lazy. You think being smart is enough." It felt brutal, but her hands were shaking a little. She kept going anyway. "Danny studies 4 hours every night just to stay in regular classes. He'll never run or play like other kids. He fights for every single thing. And you're sitting on a healthy brain and wasting it." Then she slid a thick stack of practice pages at me like she'd already decided my fate. "You want MIT? Then you're here after school. Every day. You redo every missed problem until it's perfect. No shortcuts." I tried to say I had other homework and she cut me off. "So does everyone else. Start." That became my life. The first week I tried to skip a session and head for the bus. She saw me in the hallway, dead serious, held up my failed test like a sign and said, "Room 237, now." In class, she started calling on me without warning. If I guessed, she'd stop me mid-sentence and say, "Show your steps," and the whole room would go quite fast. After school, I'd sit in that hard chair while she paced behind me, and every time I skipped a step, she'd tap the paper and say, "Again." If my answer was right but messy, she'd push it back and say, "Clean it up, again." Once she took my paper, circled one line and said, "This is where you started lying to yourself." Some days I came in mad and mumbled, "You're doing too much," and she'd say, "The world will do more," and drop another problem set on my desk. Other days I came in quiet, and she'd just point at the board like she knew I'd show up. My grades started creeping up, but she never clapped or smiled. The best I got was a flat better. 2 months in, she gave a quiz and I got an 84. I stared at the number like it was fake. She looked at it, looked at me and said, "Now do it again." One afternoon I was leaving and saw her in the faculty parking lot, struggling to lift a small wheelchair into the back of a beat-up minivan. She moved slow, careful, like every strap mattered. Then the boy from the photos was right there in the front seat, buckled in, waving at me with that same giant smile. "Hey Mom, is that your calculus kid?" he shouted. For the first time I saw her smile for real. "Yeah, buddy, that's Marcus," she said, and her voice sounded warm and tired at the same time. Danny leaned toward the window and yelled, "Good luck with MIT," like he'd known me forever. I stood there like my brain couldn't connect the two versions of her. Before I could stop myself, I asked, "Why are you so hard on us?" She didn't snap back at me. She looked at Danny, then back at me. "Because the real world won't care if you're tired," she said. "And because Danny would give anything to have your chances." That hit me harder than any red mark. I went home and studied like my life depended on it. Finals came and I still shook, but I knew the steps now. A week later, college decisions dropped. When I saw MIT early admission, I didn't even breathe. I ran straight to room 237 and blurted, "I got in!" She nodded once, like she'd expected it, and said, "Don't you dare waste it." I walked out, and right behind the door I heard her phone ring. Her voice went soft again. "Danny, guess what? Marcus got into MIT. Your mom's student did it, baby. Now my friends are saying I crossed a line with her secret. Was I wrong?"